The Nationals at 1. First 25,000 fans in attendance. Go to receive a Jacob deGrom back-to-back Cy Young Award bobblehead. Compliments of Ford. Purchase tickets at Mets.com/tickets. National starting lineup is presented by Toyota. They're playing a split squad today, but they've brought many of their regulars, including Trey Turner and Victor Robles. Starlin Castro signed during the offseason, 2 years, $12 million. Ryan Zimmerman will be at first base, and Yan Gomes does the catching for Davey Martinez's team.
Well, we talked about Matz in the open. He's one of the few stories still left this spring as to whether or not he's going to be in that rotation or in the bullpen. This left-hander has made a lot of improvements, I think, over the last 2 seasons. And he really had a tough time getting through the first inning. You're going to see him attack hitters and try to establish that curveball, which I thought was really effective for him, especially the latter part of last season.
And your Metropolitan defense brought to you by Lexus. There's Dom at his familiar position, first base. Jimenez at short has really displayed a fine glove so far this spring. There he is right there. And Eduardo Nunez, veteran pickup for the Mets in the offseason, can play second base and third base. He's going to be a valuable bench player on the season going forward.
Brandon Nimmo going to be out in center field once again. Nimmo started off last night's game down in Palm Beach against the Astros with a triple and scored. He had a couple of hits in that game. Trey Turner set to lead things off here in the top of the first inning. Turner, Robles, and Castro due up here for the Nationals.
Well, there's his numbers from last season. He got hurt early in the year, and you can see only 122 games, but this is a very talented young player. Can run like the wind. Stolen base threat.
I think getting him back last season was really the catalyst to get them going again in May. He's a big loss at the top of that lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a player.
35 stolen bases for Turner a season ago.
Yeah, it's a nice glove at short, a hustler.
64 degrees, game time under sunny skies here along the Treasure Coast. To the left side, Jimenez. Boy, he's really smooth over there. That's one down.
Well, he just, as I said, continues to sparkle in the field. He's actually swung the bat okay in spring training, but he's really solid with the glove.
He made that look easy, but the first step is what made that play right there. He didn't stay back. His first step was towards the ball, and accurate throw on the run. Nicely done.
Victor Robles next for the Nationals. Playing in just his third spring game. He's dealt with a bit of oblique soreness.
That old oblique, stay away from the sit-ups. Overrated.
The obliques they look good at the beach, right, Keith? But not as good for a hitter when you strain them.
It's just such a tough injury to come back from. You're out, 6 weeks at least, depending on the severity of the pull or strain.
And then I think it's hard to really go 100% up there for a while because you're always worried that one swing is going to hurt it again.
Robles hurt himself back on February 26th in a game against the Yankees. Sort of slipped coming in on a fly ball. They've been very cautious.
Good pitch.
First strikeout of the afternoon for Steven Matz.
A lot of scouts here today. We're in the eats room before the game, and there was at least, I think, close to a dozen scouts. There you go.
Why would that be the case?
I think they want to look at Matz. You don't know what general managers are talking about, but certainly Matz, it's been, that he could be traded. He's a valuable trade piece. I like Matz. I hope he stays with the ball club, but it doesn't hurt to ask around. And when you got someone as talented as Steven Matz and he's pitching today, you're going to have scouts.
But I've been hearing his name brought up. To me, it doesn't make a ton of sense to move him. It would have to be, I think, a big impact player coming the other way for the Mets to move him. They made a specific offseason move to get depth in that starting rotation. And he certainly is a valuable part of that rotation, or the depth of that rotation at least.
Mets ahead of Starlin Castro 1-2 here in the first inning. Count evens. Mets last pitched on the leap day against the Astros in West Palm Beach. 2 scoreless innings. Gave up a hit. He struck out 1 in that game.
Todd, you were a catcher. How much importance do you put on? Did you like having a pitching rotation with all right-handers, or did you like to have a left-hander in the mix?
No, I think a left-hander in the mix is important, I think, from a catching standpoint. And I also think, you know, when you go into a series as an offensive player, I think to see, you know, 3 or 4 right-handers in a series, I think gives you a little bit of an advantage. And so I like the fact that Steven Matz is left-handed. I think it's an advantage to them to have him in the rotation.
I agree.
Swing and a miss by Castro. Back-to-back strikeouts. Strong first inning for Steven Matz. Mets coming up. Brought to you by Geico Top. Michael Conforto, a home run so far this spring. He's in right field batting third. Dominic Smith getting the start at first base. He hits fifth. And Eduardo Nunez, trying to make this team, will be at third base for the Mets today, and he bats sixth.
Well, Austin Voth on the mound. He's a guy that came up through the Nationals organization. Pitcher of the year in 2015. Hasn't been so impressive at the big league level, and he's trying to get himself established as a starter in this rotation.
Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 3 yesterday, leading off once again here today. First pitch from Voth just misses.
Voth came up in the middle of the season when there were some injuries. It's a tough spot when you had this team making their run, which eventually wound up. This is your world championship team right here.
And as you would imagine, he's right-handed. Pitchers who is a little bit tougher on right-handers. Last year, I think right-handers only hit 165 against him at the big league level. So the lefties, you can stack this lineup with lefties and see what you can get done.
No, right after Nimmo, 3 straight fastballs, and I agree. Brandon's got a great eye at the plate. He kind of prides himself on walking, getting on base. He always has the high on-base percentage. I like him in the leadoff spot, Todd.
I was just about to ask you that question.
As opposed to McNeil. McNeil's, I think, can handle the bat in the 2-hole. I like McNeil hitting second or third.
Into center field. Emilio Bonifacio goes back, now has to come in, and he can't get there. Nimmo kept right on running, and a windblown double for Brandon Nimmo to get it going for the Mets here in the bottom of the first.
Well, you know what, folks? It's a very windy day. We just saw the flags. That grass is made on a baseball field to go down there and take a few blades up and throw it in the air and find out which way the direction the wind's blowing and how hard. And that's the veteran out there, Emilio Bonifacio. He's been around a long time.
He has, and that ball was actually hit pretty well. That ball sounded good off of Nimmo's bat, and he took a jog step, and that was all it took. That wind held it up like a 5-iron in Pebble Beach, and it just kept coming back towards home plate.
Robinson Cano hitting just $125 on the spring.
Well, as usual, this is the one thing I love about Brandon. He always runs everything out. He's a hustler. He's a very kinetic player, a spark plug. I mean, he needs to be in the top of that order. Remember, he struggled. Brandon struggled last year with the bat, and then got hurt, kind of came back and had a strong finish. So this is a big year for Brandon here. But I still think that he needs to be in the top of the order.
I agree, and it's interesting. We had that conversation a few days ago when Nimmo was hitting second to McNeil, and I was here in the game, and I prefer that reversed as well. I think McNeil is so good with handling the bat.
Yes.
And with men on base, Nimmo has an opportunity to run, but Jeff is so good at just punching balls through the holes when there's vacated spots, which happens a lot more when there's men on base.
Well, Jeff is has a great eye at the plate. It's a first ball fastball hitter. It puts a left-hander up with Nimmo, but blocks the catcher's view of if Nimmo's going to steal. It's also going to get McNeil more fastballs to hit. And McNeil is not a first ball fastball hitter. McNeil is a first pitch hitter.
Yeah.
He can hit anything on the first pitch. He got tremendous focus.
Do you remember seeing anybody like Jeff McNeil?
You know, you always say
He's so unique.
Great first ball fastball hitter. He's the best first ball hitter I've seen.
I haven't seen anything like that.
My 17 years in the big leagues, and how many years in the booth? I don't even want to count. I'll give away my age. I'm very protective of my age.
With the internet today, Keith, it's something that can be found.
Well, there you go with Jeff right there. I mean, he was in the hunt for the batting title. Kind of faded a little bit late. And remember, the power came in the second half of the season. And to me, okay, fine. Look at the 75 RBIs. He's hitting first and second. That's very productive.
I want to say that maybe 14 of those 16 second half home runs were hit on the first pitch as well, which is 12 to 14, something to that effect, which is really crazy in and of itself.
Bonifacio coming in, and he makes the catch. And Nimmo was on the run, and he's doubled off second base. So Bonifacio misjudged the first one that dropped in front of him for a double, a windblown double, but then makes up for it with a tremendous play right there and doubles off Nimmo at second base.
Well, the outfielders came in after that first out botch off the bat of Nimmo, and there's your adjustment. And it's spring training. This is like a Chicago Wrigley Field game with the wind blowing in.
Giveth and taketh away, right? That ball was hit hard by Cano on the screws.
27-year-old Michael Conforto. First pitch swinging, rolls it through the right side. Base hit, second hit of the inning for the Mets.
And well, finally, we got around to the Nationals defense. Come on, guys, let's go. I've been waiting. There it is. That's brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. We're talking about Carter Kieboom having a tough spring. He originally came up as a shortstop. Well, that's Trey Turner's territory. He's not going anywhere. He's a terrific shortstop. They played him a little bit at second base. Now he's at third base. Starlin Castro, the veteran, they brought in from the Marlins to play second base. And the Ryan Zimmerman, they got to hope that he can stay healthy at first base.
Jake Marisnick DHing today. His Mets spring has gotten off to a quiet start. His first spring in a Mets uniform, hitting just $167.
Well, he brings the defense to center field. He's a good fielder, good defender. I like that term.
Hit into center field. Bonifacio drifting over for the third out. So the Mets get 2 hits, no runs. We go to the second. Here in the second inning, pitches in inning number 1. Ryan Zimmerman leads it off for the Nats.
Well, a very good first inning for Mr. Matz.
Zimmerman, 35 years old now.
And he's been with the Nationals from their move from Montreal. He was the face of the organizations. Had problems staying on the field. A little injury prone, more than a little. But that was one of the good things. Ryan, all these years, and he got himself a World Series ring. I was very happy for him. Plus, I never root for the American League. I'm a National Leaguer
You are.
Since I was a little kid. Kidding?
Well, growing up in San Francisco.
Yep. We only had the Giants. The A's didn't come until I was, I think, a freshman in high school.
Zimmerman, by the way, the first player drafted by the Nats in 2005.
I like the way Matz is attacking him. Zimmerman is a big guy. He likes to get his arms extended. He loves the ball out over the plate and drives the ball to right center field. So Matz has been trying to stay in on him, make him a little uncomfortable in. Then maybe you can pull the string on him. But he's good on the off-speed stuff, especially out over the plate.
There's the changeup right there.
Pops it up to the right side. Dom Smith and foul ground. One down.
That's a pitch that Matz has developed and is getting better and better every year. I remember when he first started trying to get him to throw the changeup, he would tip it off. It would be a little slow down his arm speed. He's getting better and better at it. More confident throwing that pitch.
And that's one of those times where he used it effectively. Went hard in 4 times and then with the good changeup away.
Visiting with Steven this week, he said he's worked really closely with Jeremy Hefner on closing his hips. He said he's much more comfortable in his own skin after back-to-back seasons of 30 starts. Feels like he really understands how to get ready for a season now. And he said he considers himself a starting pitcher and nothing but a starting pitcher.
He's looking very sharp, very attacking the hitters, throwing strikes, getting ahead. That's the key. Obviously, Gary, that surgery that Matz had a couple years ago where they removed that nerve in his elbow, moved it. It seems to have been a successful surgery. He's no longer has any pain there or discomfort. And that's why you got the 30-plus starts from him last season.
Yadiel Hernandez, non-roster invitee, up there for Washington.
Last year we saw Matz turn the corner with his approach, and it's not so much that he sped up his delivery to the plate, but he became, I think, more intentional about every pitch. And it was something that he talked about a lot, that he'd sometimes speed up and just throw instead of having an idea what he was doing. He took a little bit of advice from Jacob deGrom, tried to be a little bit more intentional about every pitch.
Jimenez, 2 down. Steven Matz, 11-10 season to go. Set career highs in wins and strikeouts, inning pitched, and appearances. He was much better at home during the course of the season.
Really good at home, yes.
He had that one really bad outing in Philadelphia that really kind of it was just he didn't even get out of the first inning, and that really affected his road stats, his ERA particularly. The first inning has been his bugaboo, so that's what he's been trying to get through that first inning.
And I think his move to the bullpen, as you know, I think maybe disheartening as it was at the time for him, he did a great job of handling it. But I also think it had a positive effect on his ability to come in that first inning and get outs. And he talked about that as one of the things that was a positive about going to the bullpen, because when you come out of the bullpen, you're coming in there and attacking hitters. You're not trying to set guys up or pace yourself. And he said he took that approach into his starts, and that really, you saw a big difference over his last 11 or 12 starts of the season in that first inning.
Yan Gomes takes a called strike, and Matz ahead 1-2.
Using both sides of the plate, Todd, and that was something that Matz pitched early in his career. In, too much in. Now he's learned to use that outside corner against a right-hander.
Nice. Swing and a miss, and down goes Gomes, and the third strikeout of the afternoon for Steven Matz. Above Clover Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, as we go to the bottom half of the second inning. Dominic Smith leads it off here against Austin Voth and takes a called first strike from Hunter Wendelstedt, who's calling the balls and strikes today.
Son of Harry Wendelstedt, umpired Todd Narday.
Yeah, I love the story you told about his dad earlier, because there is some level of humility, and you make them human when they, you know, there's things that you disagree with, and then maybe the next day they recognize that they weren't always correct.
And
right?
I will, after this pitch, I will
enlighten us.
I will enlighten you folks at home on this quick story. Nice. Oh, just foul. So Harry Wendelstedt was a very good umpire, very good disposition, playing in Montreal. I hated playing in Montreal, never picked the ball up. Plus, Montreal had probably one of the best pitching staffs in the National League, and they should have won more up there. I don't know why. He called me out on a bad pitch in my first at bat. I was already in a foul mood because I was in the Stade Olympique. It was probably Steve Rogers, made me in a worse mood. And I started screaming at Harry, not screaming, but I barked at him in the dugout, and he threw me out. It's so uncharacteristic. And the next day I came to the park, Harry pulled me aside. And he said, Keith, I'm sick. I was in a bad mood. I shouldn't have thrown you out. I'm going to file a report and say not to have you not going to fine you, to not fine you the $100 because it was my fault, not yours. And that's the kind of guy Harry Wendelstedt was.
That's a good story. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those stories where they took my fines away.
I love to hear the human side of the game like that. When we look at the guys, we think it's all black and white, but there is that human personal side. You're together for so many months out of the course of a season.
Well, no matter.
That was in the days too where there's National League umpires and American League umpires, so you saw the same guys very, very regularly. And
you still, as a hitter, or as a player, whether you're a pitcher or an everyday player, you got to know your umpires. You got to know who you can argue with and who you can't. And Paul Runge was a very, very good umpire. Called great balls and strikes. I thought he was one of the best umpires in the league. Low ball umpire, consistent, but I never argued with him. Never.
That's so funny that you say that. Yeah, obviously coming up as a catcher, I think it helped me the rest of my career because the guys that I got, the guys that I caught in front of, you kind of get a little bond with the umpires because you're protecting them in some way, shape, or form back there. You have some banter with them. And to that point, Paul Runge was a great guy. I loved talking to him behind the plate. And a couple of times I questioned him on a balls or strikes when I was a hitter, and I recognized that you do not ever do that again. Don't do it.
Dominic Smith out in front of it.
You got the head out on that one. Jeez.
Well, Austin Voth's probably trying to figure out what to throw him. He's spoiled good pitches away, turned on pitches in. It's a good battle by Dom Smith.
That's the ninth pitch now from Voth to Dominic Smith.
Dom having a little tough time. He's got the most at bats of anybody in spring, 23 at bats. He's only got 3 hits. Nice.
Patient, but going up to get it.
And maybe that's why.
Well, that's a good
Carter
at-bat.
Kieboom.
You know, it's an at-bat, but you don't mind. You're going to make an out, make a hard out. That was a heck of an at-bat for Dominic right there.
Stayed back on that 3-2 breaking ball. Didn't try to do too much with it. Hit it back through the middle, but the shift and the good elevation got him.
So that's an L5R on the scorecard.
That's how I scored it. Thank you. You do it the same way?
I do.
I'm glad you guys clarified that for me because I was going to ask. And the shift, 5 goes over to the right side of the infield, so that's the R.
That's the R.
Okay, very good.
Eduardo Nunez with 1 out here in the second inning for the Mets. Nunez hitting .316, 6 for 19 so far this spring. Veteran trying to make this team out of spring training. A lot will depend on the health of Jed Lowry and Yoenis Cespedes, whether there are jobs to be had.
I like this move for the Mets. I think Nunez is a great pickup. I think he's a guy that probably will go north with this team based at least on what it looks like with Lowry and Cespedes at this point. And like Echeverria last season, he's a guy that can play multiple positions and can give you some pop off the bench and a good hitter.
Oh, that ball's low. That was knee-high to a grasshopper right there.
Austin Voth, his first strikeout, not making Nunez very happy. Walks away mumbling.
Oh, look at the catcher bring it up. Okay. It's low. Oh, well, close.
Yeah, it was borderline low and outside corner.
Always told if it's close enough for an umpire to call it a strike, don't take it. Don't be taken.
Tomas Nido with 2 down here in the second. And both first pitch strike. Both primarily a four-seam guy with a curveball, a cutter, and a changeup.
Well, Nito's one of those guys, not a power guy, and he likes to go to the opposite field. And you know what? When you play, just do what you can do. Don't try to get out of your game.
Nito just 2 for 12 so far this spring. He's battling for the backup catcher job with Rene Rivera, although there is the possibility that they could keep 2 backups with Rivera and Nido. Nito's out of options. And don't forget, there's an extra guy on the roster this year. There's 26 men on the roster.
I know I'm in the minority here, but I've always liked 3 catchers.
Nido to the right side. It's going to go out of play. Why is that the case, Keith?
Well, if you've only got 2 catchers, you can't use your backup catcher, because if he gets hurt, who you got to catch? Now, Bobby Valentine, I remember talking to Bobby when he managed the Mets, that I asked him, would you use your catcher if you only had 2 catchers? And you use your backup? He goes, absolutely. You got to manage to win. You know, and I've never seen it in my career where both catchers one was out and the other one got hurt. It never happened.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Austin Voth. Still no score here at Port St. Lucie. Steven Matz back to work here for a 3rd inning. He's been very impressive so far. And this is Carter Kieboom, the young 3rd baseman, trying to win this job for the Nats.
Well, he had a wonderful year in AAA last year at Kieboom. They're very high on him. They have high expectations. As I mentioned earlier, a shortstop moved to 3rd base. Hit .303 with 16 home runs, 79 RBIs in Fresno in the Pacific Coast League.
Kieboom into right field. Conforto for the first out.
That was good inside-out swing right there. That ball was cutting in on him, and he stayed inside it. Drove it to right. First ball really hit hard at all against Matz so far this afternoon.
Andrew Stevenson is the number 8 hitter for the Nationals. 25 years old, the pride of Lafayette, Louisiana. He's a versatile player, played in 57 games for the Nationals in 2018 and then 30 games for them a season ago.
Well, he's going to be the mainstay left-hander off the bench with Matt Adams gone, and the Mets picked up Matt Adams. I thought another nice pickup for the Mets.
So Matt Adams was in the clubhouse. He's back with the team after missing about a week with a cardiac issue, and he said he's been fully cleared. He also said, and I thought it was interesting, that he said it was the scariest week of his life. He didn't really elaborate on what they found or didn't find, but he has been cleared to resume baseball activities. He said it was a really tough week for him, and he didn't love the fact that he missed a whole week and fell behind a little bit, because he's also trying to make this team here out of spring training.
Well, I always feel, Gary, that, and I know Todd will agree with me, is the toughest job in baseball is being the bench player and coming off the bench, not being able to play. And I think it's heavily suited for a veteran player to handle that as opposed to a young player.
I was not good at it, and I agree with you 100%. That's a tough role. And Mets had some good guys last year to be able to do it.
Dominic Smith handled beautifully as Matz gets over for the second out. So that's 8 up and 8 down now for Steven Matz.
And to your point, Keith, the veterans oftentimes are good at it. Lenny Harris, the kind of guy that was as good as anybody coming off the bench. But that was what was impressive about J.D. Davis and Dom Smith last season. These are young guys that figured out a way to be ready whenever they were called on. That's not easy to do.
Well, you got to accept your role. That is the most important thing. And young players want to play every day. They want a chance to play. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's Noah Syndergaard. And I'm somewhat speechless.
I'm glad we got the backside, not the front side.
The Mets spy cam on Noah. Naked bullpens today, I guess, here in Port St. Lucie.
Noah's scheduled to start for the Mets tomorrow here in Port St. Lucie against the Astros.
Thought it was Johnny Weissmuller for a minute.
Matz getting ahead of Emilio Bonifacio, the veteran 32-year-old outfielder, second baseman, third baseman.
And as you guys noted, he's trying to catch up to me with teams played. Which may be why he's wearing the 2-7. He figures that one's been around. That was my number for 11 clubs, so figured he'd wear that and try to catch up to me.
Well, he's played for the Diamondbacks, the Nationals twice, the Marlins, the Blue Jays, the Royals, the Cubs, the Braves, and the White Sox. So he's not quite to you yet, but he's on his way.
Ironically, we have like a different set of 10 teams. Of those, I think maybe I only played for one of those that you mentioned, I think.
Bounced out in front of the mound. Matz handles it really well. So Steven Matz, another 1, 2, 3 innings. Still no score. Really good. Matz in his third start of the spring.
3 perfect innings.
Sometimes guys go through a few innings and get outs, but he looked sharp. He had location on both sides of the plate, used his breaking ball effectively. It's a really good start for Steven.
21-year-old Andres Jimenez, his first at bat of the afternoon. And Dylan Betances up in the Mets bullpen. He'll be next following Steven Matz, as we spoke about in the open, getting set to make his Mets spring debut.
It's been good watching Jimenez this spring. He's a guy that, has always had the top prospect touting, and then we weren't so sure about his bat last season. He went to the Arizona League, had a great season. He's put on some weight. He's put on some pop. Seen the ball jump off his bat a little bit better. He's had a nice spring.
Hit 371 out in the Arizona Fall League, and so a much more confident young player, and he's added a leg kick that's talked a lot about the fact that that's helping him leverage the baseball.
Well, he's young, so he's still maturing. He's still growing, and he's definitely gotten some strength since I saw him even a year ago in the fall at the fantasy camp, and I've seen the ball jump off his bat, especially the left center.
On the ground, down to first base. Ryan Zimmerman handles it for the first out. And that brings up Johneshwy Fargas, who's been a really interesting story so far this spring. Spent his entire career in the Giants minor league system. Stole 50 bases a year ago at AA for San Francisco, and on Thursday down in Jupiter against the Cardinals, Fargas hit for the cycle.
Well, he's getting a lot of at-bats. He's one of the few players that's got over 20 at-bats in spring, so the Mets are giving him a good look, hitting .333 so far this spring. with that cycle.
Well, some have called him the most athletic player in camp.
The coffee has arrived, guys.
Hot coffee in the booth today. It's a little chilly up here with the wind blowing.
It is chilly. 64 degrees, Todd. That's cold, you know.
64 is not exactly summer blustery weather. And I'm sporting this the sweater. I took your guys' advice after that open and that cool breeze coming through here.
Now,
so.
I have a question here. An SNY question to the production. This is an SNY shirt. We're on the air. You're supposed to see the logo, right? There's a uh-oh, 3-1. Nice.
Zimmerman, really nice play. And both getting off the mound very quickly for the second out.
So all our SNY garb, you got the logo right here. Just show SNY, but look where mine is.
Yeah, yours is
right
on the
there
back.
in the back. They just want to see your back there, Keith. So you and I.
So, you know, folks, I tell you what, I don't know what to tell you. But
I will say that's a good angle for you, Keith.
I've got to do that. So I'll sit like this.
I don't get it.
Mine is prominently displayed here.
Yeah, nicely done, Gary.
I really thought about that ahead of time.
That's the high dollar sweatshirt you're wearing.
This is a really warm, and it's tough to complain. 64 degrees into the field by Brandon Nimmo. Cut off out there by Hernandez, but a stand-up double for Brandon Nimmo. So he's 2 for 2 on the day with a pair of doubles.
Well, they got one gift double, and this is a bullet right here. Little breaking ball on the outer half of the plate, going right with the pitch.
That's one of the things that later in the season last year that Nimmo talked about. He's still a very selective hitter. He knows the strike zone. But he took a little bit of page out of Jeff McNeil's book and got more aggressive early in the count. That right there is a no-count first pitch breaking ball that he still goes down and drives. So I think that helps him in his game because he got so selective that he'd get himself behind in the count. Now he's attacking balls that are in the zone.
So Robinson Cano with a man on second and 2 outs.
Well, this is good. A good breaking ball swing right here. And he's a low ball hitter. All lefties like that ball down. Look at him hit it right up at the plate. Waited on that breaking ball. Tendency to a lot of hitters is to go out and rush after that breaking ball. The key is to let the breaking ball break into your bat, particularly if it's a lefty to a righty, righty to a left-hander.
Cano hit into an 8-6 double play in the first inning on a nice play by Bonifacio out in center field.
Yan Gomes, nice block right there, and that hard slider in the dirt. I think what Brandon is learning is that you get 4 or 5 at-bats in a game. Every at-bat is a different situation. And you've got, when you're a leadoff hitter, there's going to be at-bats when Brandon can take a lot of pitches and leading off an inning. Coming up with 1 out, no one on base. Try to get on base. But when there's men in scoring position, you go to hitting. You want to drive in that run.
Michael Conforto waiting on deck. He would be next if Cano can keep the inning alive. And Robinson Cano takes a called third strike. And so no score as we head to the 4th. Mets, Dellin Betances. His numbers presented by Audi.
Well, Betances is a guy that, like Keith said in the open, I think is one of the big pickups for the Mets. If this guy is healthy, he can do anything in the back of that bullpen. And as a right-handed hitter, this is not a guy that you like to step in against.
So, Dellin Betances' first pitch in a Mets uniform in there for a called strike.
And in his career, looking at his career splits, 167 BA right-handers, 174 BA left-handers, so he gets them both out.
Betances getting ahead on Trey Turner, top of the lineup for the Nationals. Turner, Robles, and Castro here in the fourth inning. No score. Mets and the Washington Nationals. Mets have 3 hits. The Nats still hitless.
Looks like he's still tuning up a little bit. When he's right, he can rush it up there mid to high 90s. Right now he's hovering right just under 90. Spotting, getting his work in.
He's a strikeout guy. 5 straight years of over 100 strikeouts. Obviously not last year with the injury. He only had 2/3 of an innings pitched. But he is a dominant pitcher.
No hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts, 9 saves.
And speaking of dominance, Steven Matz makes a nice case for himself. Hey, I want to be in that starting rotation. 3 perfect innings, 3 strikeouts.
Betances just missing. We know about the power 4-seamer. And then the curveball. Those were his 2 main pitches. And I had a chance to visit with him earlier this spring and asked him, the way the game has evolved, does he need to develop more? He said, I think I'm fine with those 2 pitches.
Yeah, it was good to have a chance to talk to him. This is a big, intimidating guy. Couldn't be nicer. And it was interesting that I asked him about his other sports loves. He said he was a hooper. He was a basketball player until baseball came calling, and that was a better opportunity.
Turner holding up, and so he works his way back to a walk and the first base runner of the day for the Nationals.
We'll take a look at the motion, pretty much like coming from the stretch almost. Most pitchers today, they're very compact. Big stride, Todd, right there from the big guy. And that's all a 6'8", 265 right there.
Which is what you said is the thing to keep an eye on, because it's that left Achilles that he had the issue with, that he's recovering from. And when you're that big and strong, you take that big stride, there's a lot of stress on the left foot, that left ankle, and that left Achilles, and he's going to have to make sure he's ready.
Trey Turner, 35 stolen bases a season ago, caught just 5 times. Dangerous, a game changer on the base paths.
Turner's got great explosivity, if that's a word. He's very explosive in his first couple of steps, and he gets to top speed really, really quickly.
Looks like he wants to go. Betances doing a good job of breaking up his rhythm, holding onto the ball that time for a little lengthier period of time.
I'm checking the Scrabble dictionary.
I'd like that. That would bring some, that'd be a
Explosivity?
big score there. Explosivity. Yeah, try that one.
I don't think it is, but you're selling it.
Explosiveness.
Yes.
But it was an adjective.
Hey, we were buying if you were selling.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm in your corner, Todd.
Well, Keith, you're a crossword guy, so do you ever have to use that one?
No, it's a long one.
Robles has got to back away. So Betances, despite everything that he's gone through, he has said that for him, usually ramping up for the season is a slow process, that he doesn't find his velocity till he gets closer to the regular season. And so not just what he's going through and coming off a season, a lost season, but his natural spring development is on the slower side. And that one gets away from Tomas Nido, and Trey Turner trots down to second base, and the Nationals have a runner in scoring position with nobody out.
And to that point, I think that's the way guys used to approach spring training. They didn't want to come in here firing on all cylinders day 1 or week 3 or 4 or 5. They wanted to kind of get it dialed in when it was ready to go north. He seems like that's more his style. But you're used to seeing guys come in here working out 365 days a year and come here throwing 95 in day 1. Something that has definitely changed since I was here as a player in spring training.
There's a good slider. Good location. Good bait pitch right there. Broke off the plate.
So the count is full, 3-2 on Victor Robles. And that one misses in tight. And so back-to-back walks here for Dellin Betances. Betances' story has been well told. 31 years old, born in Washington Heights. Grew up down on the Lower East Side, and then high school in Brooklyn. Pro debut for the Staten Island Yankees. His major league debut in the Bronx with the Yankees, and now completing the 5-borough cycle by signing on with the Mets.
And Starlin Castro 0 for 15 this spring. Looking for his first hit.
And Betances getting ahead. Castro played in all 162 games a season ago with the Miami Marlins. He and Trey Turner figure to be the double play combination for the Nationals if Carter Kieboom works out down at third base. Castro versatile on the infield, can play second, he can play short, he can play third, but at the moment penciled in at second.
Well, it's interesting which direction the Nationals went. They lost their all-star third baseman, and they made some moves that brought in veterans. Starlin Castro, there's Tim Bogard, the bench coach for the Nationals. He's managing today. But they went out and got 2 veterans. But Kendricks they had back, who had a terrific year for him last year. And then they now Starlin Castro. They're a veteran ball club.
They brought Asdrubal Cabrera back.
Yes, a third.
Count is even at 2-2 on Castro. Stays alive. Rob Whalen warming up in the Mets bullpen.
I mean, anytime you lose a player of the quality of Anthony Rendon, it's hard to replace a player like that. And there you see right there, Eric Thames is another veteran player. Will Harris, a veteran pitcher. But that loss right there of Rendon, that's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow right there.
And Betances gets the strikeout. So a big strikeout for Dellin Betances.
Chased a bad one.
I can't imagine they're going to let Betances go too far here.
No, this is not anything that's really going to be too indicative of his chances or how he looks. This is a chance for him to get in a real big league game and throw some pitches. You can do simulated games. You can throw games in the backfield all you want. But until you're facing big league hitters, even in a spring training game when there's fans in the stands and guys are trying to get base hits against you, it's not real. And I think they just want to see him get through an inning or get through a few batters. And I don't really think they care as much about the results right now as anything else.
Well, he pitched in a sim game earlier this week.
Right.
And he said pitching today he felt like he was graduating.
Yeah. I hated playing in sim games as a hitter. I never felt comfortable. It was always better to get between the lines in a big league game to me.
Ryan Zimmerman takes a called first strike. Trey Turner off second. Victor Robles off first. Both walking here in the top half of the fourth inning. And Turner takes off. So a double steal as Robles goes down to second as well.
Turner had been timing that for the last few pitches. I've been watching him, and Betances really concentrating on what he's doing out there on the mound to home plate right now. And 2 or 3 times in a row, first move, he went to home plate. Turner saw it and didn't even hesitate. As soon as he looked home, he started going to third base.
That walking lead is always dangerous.
Right back up the middle, and it bounces through into center field. Turner scores. Robles coming around. He's going to score as well. And the Nationals get on the board and take a 2-0 lead here in the fourth inning.
Well, they stole an extra run there on that double steal. And this is something that the Mets have to address. They have been woeful in holding runners on over the past few years. And there's nice hitting by Zimmerman on that slider that got up.
And Luis Rojas on his way out to the mound. That's going to do it for Dellin Betances. 24 pitches here in his Mets spring debut. So Betances departs. Whalen on his way in.
Rob Whalen, and he's had, in 2016, he had 5 appearances with the Braves, and then went over to Seattle in 17 and 18 and only had 3 appearances. So basically his experience has been in the minor leagues.
Ryan Zimmerman leads off first. First batter for Whalen is Yadiel Hernandez. Grounded out to shortstop, and it's his first at bat in the second inning. Luis Rojas, 23rd manager in the history of the New York Mets. 8 seasons as a minor league manager. He's been in this organization for 15 years. Sixth Dominican-born manager in the majors. His father, Felipe Alou, became the first with the Expos back in 1992. So Rojas, as I mentioned, well traveled through the minor league system with the Mets and comes from such a storied lineage. Not just his father, but his uncles played in the big leagues. His half-brother we know well. Had such great success in his time with the Mets. Bounce to the right side. Dominic Smith looks to second. Whoa. And then Whalen trying to get over, and he does get there in time for the out.
Well, I think right there that Dom has got to make the tag. He's got to realize he's not going to have a shot at second base for the lead runner. But very heads up by Whalen to get over and cover. I mean, it's a high hopper. The odds, you better get it going real quick. So you got 2 choices. But Whalen takes care of business. Almost got in a collision.
That was the problem. He did all the right things getting off the mound, but he couldn't make a direct path to the bag. Had to sort of go around Dominic.
And Dom is such a good defensive first baseman. He's aggressive there. He went to the ball thinking that maybe he had a chance, and then Whalen had to hold up a little bit because he was in his way, got around him, and still completed the play. Dom, also knowing that Zimmerman's not a great runner, he thought he might have a chance to get that lead runner. Always looking to do that. Following his mentor, Keith Hernandez. Always try to get that lead runner, right, Keith?
Yes. Particularly on a bunt play. Always felt that if we didn't succeed defensively, we didn't get the lead runner. Sometimes they put down a perfect bunt. But that was always my goal, was get that lead runner. Keeps the double play in order, too.
Now, to your point, with one out there, it's a different, you have a little bit different mindset, right? Because with one out, you want to make sure that you get an out, because now with 2 outs, you can get out of an inning, right? So you don't want to take a chance of making that spectacular play at second base and sacrifice getting it out at all.
So Whalen falling behind Yan Gomes here, 3-1. Gomes played in 89 games for the Nationals a year ago, hit a dozen homers, knocked in 43 runs. Majority of his career in the American League, 6 of his 8 big league seasons with the Indians. And third walk of the inning for Mets pitching. And that brings up Carter Kieboom, his second at bat of the afternoon. As you mentioned, Keith, he got 11 games in the big leagues last year, had good numbers in the minors, struggled when Trey Turner went out with the broken finger. That was really his first indoctrination into the big leagues.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of added pressure when you are a highly touted minor leaguer. I certainly was. It's a little added pressure. They expect you to do what Alonso did, but no one expected Pete Alonso to do what he did last year. And he really didn't have much. He just really basically had a cup of coffee.
And I think it's a different situation when you come in to replace a guy that you know is going to come back and send you down or move you at some other point. Trey Turner is a staple with this club. Now he's looking to make a team as a starter, and this is where, you know, the Nationals need to show him some patience and some encouragement, because you want this guy to be your guy over there at third base.
Well, it's his opportunity. This is his year. And yet again, he's going to be replacing Anthony Rendon, the all-star third baseman. Not an easy task to replace someone of that caliber of player. But you know what? Your opportunity's there. We're talking about Rendon. There's his numbers last year, and we all know what he does to the Mets. So it's good to see him packing west and in the other league.
Agreed. When you came to the big leagues, Keith, did you, obviously highly touted, did you have to replace somebody that was also
Joe Torre?
Yeah,
they traded Joe Torre to the Mets, and that was the heir apparent. That was the headline.
I know that term as well.
Yep.
As was I. Yes.
And I failed miserably in my rookie year. Well, it wasn't my rookie year. I lost my rookie status when I got called up in '74 in the middle of late August, or the latter half of August.
Two on, 2 outs here in the top of the 4th inning. Nationals have 2 in here, take a 2-0 lead. Hit out in front of the plate. Whalen deferring to Nino. It's not a good throw into right field. Gets away. 1 run is in as Zimmerman scores. And it's 3-0 Washington.
I don't know how they're going to rule this. Is it going to be an E2? I'm pretty sure it should be an E2. The runner would have been out.
I think that one's an E2, and I think that one is one that Nito should have bounced on and known it was his ball right away. I think he looked to Whalen because that ball chopped out in front of the plate, but it had spin on it that brought it back towards the line. And I think Nito could have been a little bit more aggressive And I think he had a chance, if he was a little more aggressive, to field it with two hands and make the strong throw instead of trying to make the underhand throw.
So that is an error on Tomas Nido, allowing Ryan Zimmerman to score, and puts runners at second and third as Gomes goes down to third. And Kieboom, as that ball went down into the right field corner and into the bullpen, the Nationals bullpen, Kieboom went to second. Andrew Stevenson fouls one away.
You got a guy at first base too, Dom Smith, who's very, very dependable and does a great job of picking. And that ball just stayed under his glove. It just skidded under his glove. But once in a while, you'll get lucky as a catcher or as an infielder. You make a bad throw and you get that guy to bail you out, but not that time.
By the way, Keith, when you did come up that year and struggled, how did you handle that?
I didn't handle it well at all. I stunk it up. I got sent down.
Right. But from a mental standpoint, did you doubt yourself?
It wasn't I was putting pressure on myself. I wasn't emotional. I was 20 years old. And I don't think I was emotionally ready for the big leagues. I mean, the first time you get up to the plate, Gary, I was 2.5 years removed from high school. And almost I look up there and there's Tom Seaver and Jerry Koosman. They collect their cards, their baseball cards, Steve Carlton. And I just wasn't ready mentally. I was overwhelmed. And it was the best thing to happen when you get sent down. Where I went down to AAA and I hit .330. Ken Boyer was the manager down there. So I was good. I needed to go down. Todd, did you have those feelings when you first came up and you faced the all-star pitcher?
You know, I think looking back, especially, I think I was really lucky because I came into the Cardinal organization. As soon as I got signed there, they signed Tony Pena to a 3-year deal. And Lee Thomas, who was the director of player development at the time, did a great service to me and told me, don't rush. You're going to go to every level and play in the minor leagues, and we're not going to take you out of your comfort zone. So, you know, enjoy those and really build on it. And so I think I took a little bit of that pressure off. So by the time I got to the big leagues, I was 2.5 years removed from college, and I think probably a little bit more mature. But then when I got to the big leagues, I was replacing Tony Pena, who was the all-star catcher that season and a very popular player in St. Louis. So I put a little bit of pressure on myself in that role.
Stevenson stays alive. Count remains even at 2-2. What's amazing, Todd, is that I was starting my broadcasting career in St. Louis when you were starting your baseball career. That's how long you and I have known each other.
That's exactly right. And the irony, to Keith's point, is that Joe Torre became my manager in my rookie season. He's the one that moved me from behind the plate to third base.
And that one misses outside, and the count goes full.
Hearing a little grumbling from the crowd. They saw Cano get rung out on a pitch they thought was borderline, and Wendelstedt has not called the borderline ones in the Mets' favor so far.
This is the 9th pitch now from Whalen to Stevenson. Into right field, Michael Conforto shading his eyes. And has a tough time out there, but he does make the catch. The sun is tough.
And the win.
Nationals get 3 and lead it 3-0. Michael Conforto getting set to lead it off for the Mets here in the bottom half of the 4th inning. That was not an easy play that Conforto made to end the top of the inning.
Yeah, it's not just the sun that he's dealing with, which is hard enough, but the wind bringing the ball back towards the infield as well as he's trying to track it. Nice job of staying with that.
The only good thing you can say about it is that the wind was blowing. There's no swirling wind like old Candlestick Park where that ball could knuckle on you. You know that the way the flags are blowing towards the right field line that the ball's going to be drift. Look at those flags. That's too much starch.
Conforto tries to drop one down against the shift, and it goes foul. See, those are, I believe, of the metal variety.
I think you're right.
Yes.
Show the real flags, guys. There it is. And that is blowing directly to the right field foul pole.
Will Crowe is the new pitcher for the Nationals.
Good slider right there.
Michael working on his bunting, trying to at least find some ways to battle the shift when you need a base runner. Not a bad idea.
Austin Voth got the start for the Nats. He went 3 innings, giving up 3 hits and no runs. He struck out 3, didn't walk anybody. Voth is in that battle with Joe Ross. Eric Fetty for that 5th spot in the Nationals rotation. And Conforto goes down on strikes.
Pulled the string on that changeup, got Michael out in front of that ball, and got a little bottom movement on it as well. Dropped it out of the zone. You see he's just out in front.
Jake Marisnick lined out to center field in his first at bat.
It's interesting how much they're using Marisnick to DH when he's really a defensive, not a specialist, but obviously he's here for his defensive skills in center field, and they're giving him some at bats, hoping to get that pop that he has to be able to use it a little bit more consistently.
Jeurys Familia will be next for the Mets when we head to the top of the 5th inning. Marisnick figures to be a guy who replaces in many ways what Juan Lagares did for this team. A plus defender in center field. Dominic Smith waiting on deck. And Jake Marisnick works out a walk. So the Mets have a base runner here in the 4th inning. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmission in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the New York Mets. Good look outside Clover Park, newly refashioned Clover Park. They did a terrific job in refurbishing this ballpark, over $50 million to do so.
Well, you got the Jim Beam bar, bourbon bar over the left field fence. The Tiki Hut is gone. Jim Beam reigns supreme.
Was that an official advertisement? Either was that a personal?
They're going to take on that slogan.
Dominic Smith lined out to Carter Kieboom in the 2nd inning. Kieboom did a really nice leaping catch to the right of second base with the shift on, which is where he is once again.
Dom is so good usually at hitting away from the shift, utilizing that bat control and using the left side of the diamond. He's just a little out in front right now. His timing is just a little bit off so far this spring, but you can bet you'll see him during the season when he gets in a situation like this. Go ahead and hit a ground ball to third base, and you'll end up first and third.
Marisnick leading off first. He had 10 stolen bases in 2019. Dominic rolls it over. They get the out at second. On to first, not in time. So they get the force.
That was a very awkward double play there by both the fielder and Turner. This is Castro. That's very awkward right there. And then Turner here. Well, not really. Just kind of threw it off to the side.
Brings up Eduardo Nunez. Struck out looking in the second inning. Nunez now 32 years old in his career. Began with the Yankees, then on to the Twins and the Giants, and then the Red Sox. Through the hole on the right side. Eduardo Nunez, his 7th hit of the spring, now 7 for 21, hitting at .333 on the spring. Making a case for himself.
Looks like he was looking to go that way all the way.
You're right. He saw that hole. They'd been working him away with off-speed and fastballs. He just saw that hole and punched it through there.
So Tomas Nido with 2 outs and 2 on here in the bottom of the 4th inning. Well, we've got a really nice crowd here in Port St. Lucie today. Again, there is a bit of a nip, a chill in the air, but the sun is bright. There's not a ticket to be had. The berm is packed out in right field. Baseball fever very much in the air as we steam towards opening day on March the 26th.
That's sort of the opposite of how he pitched Nunez. He's going hard in on Nido with a little bit of movement. Nido doesn't handle the ball in quite as well as he likes the ball away, so he's trying to crowd him.
Tomas Nido again is out of options, so the Mets cannot send him down.
Well, the Mets like him for his defense too. I mean, he's not even so much throwing as his framing. There was a lot of talk about it last year. He does a good job on the low ball. He's good with Syndergaard. He's good with DeGrom, and gets that low pitch. And that may be why he's going to stay on this roster.
That's hit hard, but just foul outside of third. You're right, Todd. They do like his defense. He has not shown the ability to hit consistently at the big league level. He did so at Double-A Binghamton. If I'm not mistaken, he won a batting title.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
But it has not translated to the big league level.
There you go.
Will Crowe ahead of Nido, 1-2. Gets away, doesn't go far enough, and nobody advances. As you were saying, Keith, you like having 3 catchers on the roster, and I don't think Brodie Van Wagenen is opposed to that. I think they like the way Rene Rivera handles the staff. I think they like the fact that he came into camp in such great shape.
Well, I think in April, too, there's a lot of off days in the Mets schedule in April. Do you really need that extra pitcher with that extra 26 man on the roster?
And this time Dominic Smith does take off for third, and he slides in safely. Nunez follows him on to second. So the Mets now have 2 in scoring position with 2 outs.
Well, the Mets are working on being more aggressive on the bases. And Dom takes his lead on his toes and gets a good jump here. Well done.
And so Nido, very patient, works out a walk to load the bases. Uh-oh, was that the first sigh of the spring?
No, it was not. Around the 20th.
I think that's the first one I've experienced.
No, I just never been a fan of the 2-0, 3-1, 3-2 breaking ball.
Especially your team just scored you 3 in the top of the inning. You have a chance to get out of this inning being aggressive and work a walk. Now he's in trouble.
Andres Gimenez, a chance to do some damage here for the Mets, and Crow falls behind 1-0.
And I think that sigh that we experienced is sort of the way the fielders behind a pitcher feel at times when you get to this. You get a couple of outs, you can go aggressively against the guy. Next thing you know, you're looking at a potentially big scoring inning when you produce it yourself.
Gimenez into center field. Bonifacio has it lined up and makes the catch for the third out. So the Mets leave the bases loaded. They trail it 3-0. Syndergaard out there throwing in a state of somewhat of undress. So we've got some clarity on exactly what this is. This is motion capture analysis. So more technology that gives players more knowledge and resources. That's Edwin Diaz. So more details, proprietary on what exactly that is out there. But according to the Mets PR department, that's exactly what's going on.
Well, my feeling is do that on a warmer day, not on a cold, frigid day like today. I wouldn't want my pitchers out there naked from the waist up.
Well, I was told that Keith and I are going to go out there and do some motion capture after the broadcast today.
Better you guys than me, because that would be an immediate change the channel. Well, it's Jeurys Familia serving it up. Emilio Bonifacio gives it a ride out there, and Michael Conforto runs out of room, and that is a home run for Emilio Bonifacio. His first of the spring, and the Nationals extend their lead to 4-0.
Well, that one, I mean, that's into the fighting the win all the way. If you're going to hit one out today, it's got to be a line drive.
That was just a slider that stayed in the middle of the zone, and he turned on it and kind of like a 3-iron cutting through the wind. It pushed towards the line, but just kept on traveling. Michael thought he had a chance on it. Just out of his reach. At least he didn't lose his glove like he did the other day. I saw him go for the home run ball and lost his glove in no man's land. Today, kept it on.
And then had to go pick it up himself because
he did indeed.
There's that fence out there that goes behind the wall before the berm. So there was no security or anybody else to come help him out there. Trey Turner now for the Nationals.
I mean, it's a little troublesome, a little worrisome. You know, Familia is a big part of this bullpen, and he's lost all this weight coming off a bad season, probably the worst season of his career, and the Mets really need him to get back in form.
Familia dropping about 30 pounds during the offseason. Now, he has claimed that the weight loss allows him to lengthen his stride and then release the ball more in front of the rubber. What exactly does that help him with?
Well, I hope that helps his confidence, because really it's his release point, not necessarily where out in front of the rubber he is, but sometimes he drops his arm slot down and the ball flattens out. When he gets up on top and gets on that drive down, like he's talking about, more over the top like that, he gets a little more downward sink on his fastball, and that is really his bread and butter. He's got to use that sinker effectively to be the Jeurys Familia that you saw back when he was so dominant.
And he was dominant back in 2016. He had those 51 saves for the Mets. Count is even on Trey Turner at 2-2. Bounce to shortstop. Jimenez charging, firing. And Joey Turdoslavich, who was the new first baseman, could not hang on.
Well, I think he beat it out anyway.
It is an infield single for Trey Turner.
And Turner's just so quick down the line. And Jimenez did everything he can possibly do. He just beat it.
He beat it. We won't go to the explosive word on Turner, but he gets out of the box and in top speed as good as anybody, especially from that right side.
And he is a game changer when he gets on base.
As we've already seen, when he went from second to third, stole third base against Betances and moved two guys into scoring position, the ball that Ryan Zimmerman hit out to follow that up for 2 RBIs could potentially have been a double play ball when they're holding guys on first and second.
Familia dials it up to 96. Jeurys Familia, now 30 years old, pitched to an ERA at 5.70 a year ago. Really struggled, 42 walks in 60 innings of work. Turner with that oven mitt on his left hand down at first. Turner's so interesting. As talented as he is, he didn't have that finger really working for him for much of the year. He didn't have the ability to grip the bat with all 10 fingers and had surgery in November to finally correct that. So as good as he was, they think he can be even better.
Yeah, it was remarkable because he got hurt against the Mets early in the season. And then in May, I was in D.C. when he made his first appearance back. They really needed to get that spark. They were struggling as a team, and he hit with that one finger off the bat for the remainder of the season, and it was remarkable how well he could do, and what a game changer he is, as you said.
Victor Robles into center field. Brandon Nimmo goes back, now coming in. The wind's got it, and it drops in there.
Well,
so Robinson Cano went back on it. Nimmo came in. Conforto came from right field, and it dropped in between the three of them.
so Brandon taketh, and now he giveth.
You could see that was going to be a problem. He took 2 steps back and then was on his horse trying to come in to get that. The wind just pushing it, knocking it towards right field, and Conforto was so deep in right field, he had no chance for it. And it's Andres Jimenez trying to get out there to get to it, and right there in no man's land.
It's pretty apparent that anything hit the center field to left is going to go nowhere.
The wind has been howling since early morning, and it continues to do so here at Clover Park. That one by Castro, fading away from Nimmo, hits off his glove. Conforto picks it up, and Trey Turner had a hold up. Not sure if Nimmo was going to make that catch, and so he held up down at third.
Almost had a situation like Nimmo in the first, where he got the double because of the ball being misplayed in the wind, and then gets doubled off. If he comes up with that play, he would have had a repeat right off the end of his glove. Great effort. Actually surprised that Turner didn't score on that ball, because even though he had to hold up, Michael was getting it. Conforto was getting it coming towards center field. I don't think Michael even thought he had a chance at home plate, and he threw to third base. And now Brandon's got to fix those glasses, because the sun is a factor as well as the wind.
So bases loaded here for the Nationals. They've got one run in already here in the 5th inning, courtesy of the Bonifacio home run.
Nobody out.
Nobody out. Ryan Zimmerman with the bases juiced, and he takes one inside. And a called strike as we go downstairs right now. Happy to have Steven Matz joining us from the Mets dugout. Steven, it's Gary and Todd. Keith.
What's up, guys?
Terrific outing by you today. What felt so good?
Thank you. I was just able to really command my off-speed really well. My fastball was a little erratic in the beginning, but just my off-speed got me back in counts.
And look to me, Steven, it's Keith, that you worked both sides of the plate, too. You pounded inside and also but worked the outside corner. You had a couple breaking balls to the right-hand hitters, I felt, on the outside corner.
Yeah, that's something that, is going to be important for me is definitely, down and away or just really away on the outer part of the plate, especially when I got my fastball and my cutter slider working inside, down and away, or just the away side is going to be an important pitch for me.
Jeurys Familia gets the strikeout on Ryan Zimmerman, so one down and the base is still loaded.
Steven, it's Todd. This time of the year, this time of the spring, where do you usually like to be as far as the mixing of pitches? Do you try to stay more with just finding location, or are you really starting to dial in all of your pitches at this point?
I'm really starting to dial in all my pitches. Going into this outing, I really wanted to focus on just keep my curveball down on the bottom half of the zone, just kind of have that put away pitch that I could go to any time is throwing that curveball down, and it seemed to work pretty well for me today, so I was happy with that.
Steven, we had a chance to visit for a few minutes yesterday, and I asked you about the fact that you've had back-to-back seasons of 30 starts, and are you a more confident pitcher at this point in your career? How do you assess where you are at this point? You're 28 years old. You'll be 29 at the end of May.
Yeah, I feel like, coming into camp, I just feel really comfortable on the mound right now, especially I had 7 days. I threw 2 innings and through my 7th day. Normally I'd be, trying to find it out there, not feeling too comfortable because I haven't been out there in so long. But I think today was a big testament of, the last 60 starts in the past 2 years that I got really gave me, was that stepping stone to feeling comfortable out on the mounds, even in taking 7 days off. So that was huge for me today.
Hey, we talked to you a little bit about this last season when you spent some time in the bullpen. Is there something that you think that helped you with going out and being aggressive in the first inning? Is that something you think translated because of that work in the bullpen?
It's tough for me to say. I think possibly a few factors, possibly not wanting to be in the bullpen, wanting to be a starter, possibly, realizing you got to be more aggressive right away, as you come in. And so I think that was really the biggest thing, is just being aggressive after the guys and trusting your stuff, trusting your abilities and the preparation you put in, that you're going to have it from the jump start. So
you've got a new pitching coach in Jeremy Hefner. How is that working out? Is he... Every coach always brings something to the plate or to the table that is you can use positively or just toss it away. How's that working out for you?
It's been working great. He's a great communicator. He really he's got a good way to communicate this new analytics stuff that we're going through, where it really makes a lot of sense for me, where I can actually translate and work on stuff, and instead of hearing these numbers but not really knowing how to apply it. So it's been great. He's helped me tremendously a lot, really, so I'm excited.
Hey, we saw some of your teammates down on the side with some of the biometric data, motion capture stuff. Is that something you've done before? Is that something they're going to have you do? And is it something you think could be valuable to your guys as far as information? So you talked about analytics.
Yeah, I went to Michigan this offseason and worked with the University of Michigan, and those guys, and Hefner came there. They have a lot of that technology, and so I've done it before, and we've got some good feedback. I haven't done it here, but I think all this stuff, the end goal is to just help us, not to overthink it, but just so you can have a reference point, so you have something that you can look at,
Jay Reese Familia gets the strikeout of Yadiel Hernandez. Back-to-back strikeouts for Jay Reese. One more for me, Stephen, and you mentioned it a moment ago that, you know, working out of the bullpen last year, that you want to be a starting pitcher, and a lot has been discussed about it this year, and I know you've said, you know, I'll deal with it at the time, but you're pretty steadfast on where you would like to be. Is that a fair estimation?
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, I like starting. That's what I've done my whole career, you know, other than that little stint last year. So, you know, that's where I want to be. And so that's where I'm at right now. And so, you know, that's just what I'm going to keep working towards and just build up as a starter. So, yeah, I do like to start, and that's where I want to be.
Well, back-to-back solid years for you and a really good spring so far. Great outing today, Steve. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, Steve.
So Jay Reese Familia 2/3 of the way out of this bases loaded jam, now facing Yan Gomes. And he gets ahead 0-2. Stephen Blind's getting ready in the Mets bullpen.
Gomes picked up last year from Cleveland, and part of that, you can't really call it a platoon. Kirk Suzuki came over from Atlanta. They're both right-hand hitters, but they shared the catching duties.
Familia wanted that one, humped it up a little bit. 97. You heard him grunt a little bit, trying to get out of this. Be a good bit of work for him to get out of the bases loaded, nobody out situation if he can get Gomes here.
In the air to the right side, Cano going out. Conforto shielding his eyes. The wind's got it, but Conforto able to make the catch, and so the Nationals get just the one run on the Bonifacio homer. Look at the upcoming Mets schedule presented by WB Mason. We're on Pix 11 tomorrow as the Mets host the Houston Astros here at Clover Park, and then it's the Marlins on Monday, the Astros again, and then the Cardinals before an off day on Tuesday, all en route to opening day on the 26th of March. And not to leave this at the front door just in case you guys need this, we're setting the clocks ahead tonight for your planning purposes.
So we lose
an hour
sleep.
Yes,
I appreciate that. I wouldn't want to be up here ready for a 1 o'clock game at 2 o'clock.
Well, I'm not working tomorrow, so
sleep in.
I can sleep in if my cat Haji will allow me.
Haji. Will Crow out for a second inning of work, and Johneshwy Fargas grounded out down to first base in the third inning. Laced into center field, Bonifacio racing in, one down. Brandon Nimmo 2 for 2 on the day with a pair of doubles. One was wind aided in that first inning, and then a sharp double into left field in the third.
That's a fun duty when you're the catcher, having to protect your other catcher. Ball goes on the field.
So I heard you guys speaking about it the other day, the bullpens in San Francisco, which were on the field, have now been moved off the field this season. So, you know, certain guys, I've heard Michael Conforto speak about the fact that dangerous out there.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But that's going to change in San Francisco, as most clubs do not have that anymore.
I thought nothing was more dangerous than Wrigley Field. bullet. Hang with them. What I didn't like about Wrigley Field was the fence line, or the brick fence going down the lines. It had a concrete water drain, and it was like shaped like a U, not like a U, but it had like a
right.
And the water, you can get, it's concrete, and on the pop-ups down the line, you're getting your metal cleats. You could break your ankle on that thing, and that's been there forever.
Robinson Cano bounces one foul. So Cano got off to such a great spring start a year ago and then battled the leg issues and got hit in the hands a few times. He's gotten off to a relatively slow start this spring, but he is really confident that he has got plenty left in the tank here in 2020.
Well, the one thing you look for an aging athlete, a hitter, is the bat speed. If they lose the bat speed, you lose that little bit of reflex, which comes naturally with age. The hitters can beat you. Where they used to not be able to beat you, they beat you more anyway. And it's a big thing not to get worried about getting beat inside. I mean, because you're aware, okay, that pitch, that guy shouldn't be able to get in on me. It didn't happen. And that's always the negative that's in the back of your head that you have to combat when you get older.
Well, every year since 2009, he had batted 300 against fastballs. Last year, just 291.
What was so odd about last year was just such a great spring training that Robinson had. He just killed it, and then he went into the season and just couldn't get out of the gate.
He didn't want to make excuses, but the number of times he got hit on the hands, I think that did play into the equation. Rolls it over to the right side. Good play over there by Jacob Wilson, who's new at first base. And so 3 up and 3 down for the Mets here in the 5th. Right now, we are accepting applications to nominate a league in need. Apply today at sny.tv/playball. As we head for the top of the 6th inning, and Brad Brach is the new pitcher for the Mets.
Well, he came over from the Cubs. He had a difficult time in Chicago. Kind of lost his slider, and I think he's gone more now to the cutter. He's going to be a part of this bullpen, the front end of the bullpen.
Brach facing the bottom third of this Nationals lineup. Carter Kieboom, Andrew Stevenson, and Emilio Bonifacio due up here for the Nats in the 6th. They got 3 runs in the 4th inning, 1 in the 5th, courtesy of the Bonifacio home run. Steven Matz started for the Mets today. Really impressive. 3 innings, no hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts, didn't walk anybody. Continued what has been a very strong spring. And Kieboom goes down on strikes.
And that's what Brach has to do to be effective, especially against the right-handers, because he comes across his body, he's funky. And for the right-handers, the ball rides in on you. And so then when he can cut it away like that with some level of consistency, as you see Kieboom pulls off that ball thinking it's going to ride in on him, and it just cuts the other way. It doesn't have to be a lot of movement if he can get it on the same plane going both directions.
Center field number 18, Cordell. In right field number 12, Lee. At second base, number 86, Hager.
Andrew Stevenson 0 for 2 on the day. Grounded down to first in the 3rd inning and flied out to right field in the 4th. And he goes down swinging. here in the 6th inning. So back-to-back strikeouts for Brad Brach to get his day going.
And that's the difference maker for him against the left-handers. He went to the backdoor slider the pitch before, throws the changeup right there. You see his grip. Try to get some late movement on it, as it did. Thought it was a fastball. The bottom drops out, and another strikeout.
So with 2 down, Bonifacio, first pitch swinging right back to Brad Brach. And so 1-2-3 solid inning for Brach as we head to the bottom of the 6th. 4-0 here in Port St. Lucie on a beautiful Saturday under sunny skies. A little chilly, but sun has been shining, and a big crowd here at Clover Park as we head down back into the Mets dugout, where Brandon Nimmo joins us right now. And Brandon, as we were in the break, I asked you what was tougher today, the wind or the sun for you. What was your take on it?
Yeah, for me it was the wind, but Conforto battle in the sun in right field, man, that's a helpless feeling, because there you can't even see the ball. So for me, I mean, I thought maybe it had died down just a touch when I cut that second double through the wind just a little bit, but no, it hadn't. So I started just playing almost just outside of the infield after that.
Well, the first at bat, you took advantage of the wind, but you hit that ball pretty well.
I'm not
that ball
lie
sounded
to you guys.
Good off the bat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That's about all I got. So with 2 strikes, I mean, I squared that ball up right on the barrel. I felt like I hit it well, and I just put my head down and was running because I knew the wind was blowing. But when it landed just outside of the infield, I was like, man, I got to go lift more or something. I don't know what's going on. That's about all I got.
Yeah, it was like a 7-iron that you hit directly into the wind, and it just climbs the ladder. Because Robles thought you hit it well, too. He took 2 steps back before he started coming in.
I know. It's a tough one out there. And you know, if you hit it to right field, you might be able to cut through it, you know. So, nice. But, yeah, so it's a little bit tough out there right now. But I was able to take advantage of it in the first, which was nice. Wish Robbie's would have fell. I saw Trey Turner jump for that, and he wasn't far from getting it. I took my first step back, and then what do you know? Bonifacio's right back there and making a play. So it kind of worked for us and then against me.
You almost got it back on the diving play. That ball just go off the end of your glove.
So I must have a little nice hit, very nicely. I must have a spring in my glove right now, because I feel like that hit me like right in the pocket, but kind of hit like right where your index finger bone is, because with an outfield glove you put 2 in the pinky and then kind of switch everything to the outside of the glove. Hit me right in there, and thank goodness it's spring training, because I got to fix that spring in my glove.
So 2 more hits for you today, Brandon. 2 doubles. You've had a really good spring so far. What's been working so well offensively for you?
You know, just trying to continue what we did in September. You know, Chili and I and Slate, we were continuing to try and work on. Oh, nice. Moving up, that's points for us. We got a little game going on the inside on base running now. We're trying to prioritize that a little bit more, so that's points. But for me, you know, just trying to continue what we did in September. We were working on you know, being a little more athletic in the box, and so I kind of started to pick the foot up a little bit, and that allowed me to be a little more athletic, but then you know, just try and stay within myself, and always just try and come back to focusing on the process, and not let the success or the failure really dictate the next at-bat. Just the next at-bat's coming. It's going to have its own circumstances, and deal with that when you get in there, and then put that last at-bat to the side. So I've been just trying to come up with that thought process every time I'm going up to the plate, and try and just not do too much. You can find yourself trying to kill the ball when you're feeling really good, and that can sometimes throw you into those little slumps, and then you're trying too hard when you're not doing well. So I'm trying to just really simplify things up there the best that I can.
Hey, Brandon, it's Todd. One of the things that I've noticed end of last year and into the spring is it seems like you're being aggressive early in a count, maybe a little bit more than you had been in the past. And does that depend on the situation, or is that something that is a mindset now going into your at-bats?
I think it depends on the situation, but you know, a lot of my at-bats come up with me leading off an inning, and you know, there was two ways to approach that, and you know, it was to try and take pitches, and that can still be the case, you know, to try and let kind of feel that pitcher out. But from now and from September, we were kind of just trying to set a mood. And, I think Jeff probably did it the best, showing everybody how you could go after that first pitch and it would be all right, even if you did make a hard out on the first pitch, the next guy will pick you up. And so I think that trust of the next guy, not being upset about that and being able to be like, no, go after it, go attack it. I'll take the next pitch if that's how it needs to be. I think that's really helped free me up on being a little bit more aggressive and trying to attack pitches early in the count because let's face it, it's just really hard to hit with 2 strikes in the big leagues. So you want to try and take advantage of those early counts.
Brandon, you've been hitting leadoff, you've been hitting second.
Yeah.
You've been kind of flip-flopping with Jeff. What is your preference? What do you prefer to do, or do you have a preference?
I really don't. I'm being completely honest on that. I really don't have a preference. Our lineup is so deep, I feel like, that as long as I'm in the starting lineup, I don't care. And even if I'm not, I'll try and help out the best that I can from whatever position I get thrown into. But, I'm one of those guys that is going to have...
Marisnick into left field. There's Yadiel Hernandez. Again, that wind just whipping up there.
Yep, it really is. And just being able to take the same approach into every at bat. The only difference is really that first at bat. When you're leading off the game, the next at bat you're going to come up in a totally different situation most likely. You might have to drive in runs or sac fly or start off another inning or move a guy over. So honestly, it's just that first at bat, and it doesn't matter to me. I just want to try and help contribute any way that I can.
So last season was incredibly frustrating for you, missing much of the year.
Right.
Did it change your outlook on the game and realizing that, boy, it can be gone really quickly?
Yeah, no question. For me, gave me another great appreciation for being able to play, a game is my job, and how quickly it can be taken away, and so don't take any day for granted. I tried to approach it that way, but things can, in this game, going through the minors, going through their struggles, things can become mundane, and you can start to feel sorry for yourself. But when you have it taken away like that, and all of a sudden it's just gone, and you're like, man, I don't know if I'll be able to come back the same again, it does give you a great appreciation for being able to show up at the field every day and just compete. And so that's what I've tried to do, is just get the body ready to compete every day, and then just enjoy that fact that I get to come here every day and play a game as my job.
Well, as we wrap this up, I will say you've had the best quote of the spring. I got a lot of love to give. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
I'm glad you guys like it.
I'm glad
you
you
liked it. Yeah, no, I do, and I do. I thought I'd try and make a little light of the situation. Everybody was feeling pretty down on it, and some people were really upset about it. Some of the Mets fans, and I appreciate that. I really did appreciate that concern, but I wanted to make a little bit more light of the situation, that it wasn't that serious, but we just found out I had a big heart and a lot of love to give. So
that's awesome. Brandon, continued success this spring into the season. Great visiting with you.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Brandon Nimmo joining us from downstairs. That interview presented by Citi.
Hey. Well, at least this time he devoted all of his time to answering the questions of the interview instead of doing the play-by-play.
He loves what's going on in the field, and I know a little bit about what he's talking about with their point system. I wasn't not sure how much I can reveal because it's an inner clubhouse kind of thing, but they have some teams set up, and they try to go first to third, get second to home, get some extra points, and it's a little fun competitiveness with the guys in the clubhouse, and I think it's something that they enjoy to get them through spring training and try to do something productive at the same time.
Joey Terdoslavich goes down looking at a called third strike. It's going to do it for Will Crow's afternoon. And so Brian Bunnell is on his way in for the Nationals. spirited crowd here in Port St. Lucie, despite the fact that the Mets are trailing at 4-0 in the bottom half of the 6th inning. Brian Bonnell is the new pitcher for the Nationals. Big guy, 6'5", 240 pounds, 26 years old. He'll face Eduardo Nunez with Braxton Lee leading off second.
He's ready. Oh, they're trying to roll it into the cup.
Wait until I get it.
Nunez 1 for 2 on the day. Has to back out of the way of that one. So what is the idea of this game? Down the, you got to play the curve.
Oh, he's playing the hook.
Trying to throw the old little the breaker in.
You've got to read the break. The burn.
Yes. Nicely done.
That one gets away, and Lee walks down to third.
That's slow motion, folks. Super slow. Well done. Got it into the small cup, too. Good for you.
Those are Augusta National-esque
What does he get?
breaks out there.
What does he get?
Ball and a strike right there.
I think it's the adulation of his friends. Swing and a miss as Nunez goes down. So Bonnell faces one. He strikes out one. We go to the 7th. Top half of the 7th inning here at Parker at Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. Paul Sewald, the new pitcher for the Mets, 29 years old. Primarily a four-seam fastball slider guy. And he gets Trey Turner to swing and miss.
Sewald is similar, a little bit similar to Brad Brock, is where they throw across their body, use the little bit of deceptive delivery, paints that outside corner, and it's tough for a right-hander to stay on it, as we talked about with Brock. Use that slider effectively and try to run the fastball in on the hands and the slider away.
Well, one thing about Paul doesn't walk anybody. You saw his numbers last year. In that 19 innings pitch, only 3 walks. He goes after hitters.
Goes to the off-speed stuff and gets Trey Turner for the first out here in the 7th. Follow SNY on SNY.TV, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for a continuous stream of all the latest developments from spring training with behind-the-scenes video and live updates straight from right here in Port St. Lucie. Well, just for the record, they are not actually warming up in the bullpen, but they are warming up.
Future Met getting loose down there. Wall ball. That's your best playing partner as a kid, is the wall. Always throws it back to you.
Yes, sir. I used to play in front of a the side of our garage was all brick, and that ball would come off in a crazy bounce if it hit where the mortar was. And I used to get closer and closer and closer. I used to do that all day. I loved it.
Yeah.
On my front yard, on the lawn.
Great for your hands. That's why you could pick it the way you did, because it was unpredictable coming off the brick.
Taylor Gushue is the batter for the Nationals, and Patrick Mazeika now doing the catching, and back-to-back strikeouts here for Paul Sewald in the 7th.
One of the old Cardinal coaching gurus, one of the greatest of all time, George Kissel, who you and I talked about earlier. When I moved from behind the plate to third base, he took me in front of a wall, and just to your point, I would have my back to him. I'd be just looking at the wall, and I would have to react at balls he would throw off the wall to try to help my hands. And it was a great drill that he did. And it's to your point, some of those you just react against the wall, and you don't know where the ball's going to bounce, and it helps you get instinctually better with your hands.
And it's fun.
It is.
It's fun to do.
It was a good drill to do.
Yes.
Starlin Castro has a couple of strikeouts and a single this afternoon. Came into the game 0 for 14 on the spring. What's it like for a guy like Sewald when you really go through the numbers and see who the 13 pitchers are going to be? He's not one of them. So what's the spring like for a guy like that?
I think he's just got to stay focused on impressing the guys, doing what he does, because he's going to be in the big leagues at some point this season. He's one of those guys that was, on the shuttle back and forth last season. He's a guy that has big league experience. He's not afraid when he takes the mound, and he's got to just show that he's still that same aggressive pitcher that's learning to get better, and he's been good this spring. He's been really effective. And to one of the points that you were talking about earlier, there's always scouts in the stands. You can never take anything for granted when you're at the big league level or in the minor league level. There's always going to be guys watching you. If you don't have an opportunity here, you may have an opportunity somewhere else. So always go out and do your best.
There's some of those scouts. We saw them in the lunchroom, as Keith alluded to earlier. A lot of them here in attendance today. Into center field. That's Ryan Cordell into the game to make the catch, and so a solid 1-2-3 inning for Paul Sewald. It's stretch ding time to check in around, presented by City, and big news across town. Aaron Judge going to be shut down for at least a couple of weeks because of a stress fracture in his rib. So that's not good news for the Yankees.
Certainly not good news for the Yankees. I guess it's good that they finally diagnosed what has been bothering him, because this is something that happened to him last September on a dive in the outfield, and it had not been properly diagnosed, so at least they know what it is and how to treat it. But rib is a tricky thing. We talked about this earlier today, and they can just sometimes continue to nag, and I think he's just a little frustrated that it's taken this long to figure it out.
Javi Guerra is the new pitcher for the Washington Nationals. Patrick Mazeika, his first at bat of the afternoon for the Mets. You were telling us, Todd, that earlier in your career you dealt with a rib issue that was troublesome.
Yeah, and it was really to the same point. It was tough to figure out that it was a rib, because really it hurt me in my chest and sort of inside my shoulder blade, especially when I breathe. And I finally got it diagnosed as my, I think, fourth rib was misaligned, and I had a chiropractor in Colorado who is actually the one that figured it out and reset it, and almost instantaneously the pain went away and the nagging went away. And it was something that I knew, at least, and I felt that pain again. That's what it was, and I could get it fixed.
There you go, Todd.
Oh, yeah. I try to stay away from the orthopedics. I luckily, knock on wood, I stayed healthy for most of my career, and I'm fortunate.
Mazika goes down on strikes. First out here in the bottom of the 7th. Javi Guerra began last season with the Blue Jays and then on to the Nationals, where he pitched 53 2/3 innings. Andres Jimenez 0 for 2 on the day. Grounded down to first base and flied out to center field.
Shortstop, number 5, second base, number 6,
Keith, when the shadows start to creep like they are right now, was that something that would get in your head as a hitter? Is it?
It wouldn't get in my head, but doesn't make it anything easier. That's for sure. So I would go to really like 2-strike hitting, really try to go up the middle, see the ball, and see it a little bit further out of the pitcher's hand than I normally before I make a decision, because once it dips into the shadows, it's difficult. But right now it's perfect where it's halfway there, and the further it goes out, the more difficult it gets until it's absorbed by the shadows completely covers the pitcher. Then it comes out, it's the same. But that light in the dark is not fun.
Light in the dark is bad. And the strikeout swing by Mazika, I saw it looked like an emergency swing, like he didn't quite see the ball, and it made me think about what it's like to see it coming from sun to shadows. Oftentimes it can be really challenging.
Those old 5:30 twilight doubleheaders, Todd, back in our day.
Yeah, Dodger Stadium, right? Dodger Stadium had those terrible shadows because they were the light standard, so it wasn't a solid shadow like it is there. It was broken up. It was no fun.
I remember my second All-Star game in Dodger Stadium. J.R. Richards started for the National League, I believe.
One, yeah.
They didn't have a chance.
No.
Because that was the greatest breaking ball I ever faced. When J.R. threw that break and that slider, it was just wicked. And he just overwhelmed them.
Nice play out there by Rafael Bautista to take a hit away from Andres Jimenez. 2 down.
Well, Jimenez still having solid at-bats. This is another one that didn't have to battle the wind as much because it's on a line. Good concentration, makes a nice play.
So 2 down, that brings up Jarrett Parker.
I remember that All-Star game as a young Dodger fan, watching that one, watching him mow through his innings. That was something.
And Dodger Stadium and the Houston Astrodome have the highest mounds by far, and they lowered the mound. What was that, after 68? But it seemed like the Astrodome and Dodger Stadium were like big mountains they were pitching on.
And especially a guy like JR, who was already, what, 6'7" or so?
He was 6'8".
He's 6'8".
So how do you get away with that? How do you get away at the old Astrodome and then Dodger Stadium when
That's a very good question.
the height of the mound is supposed to be consistent?
Right. That's trouble.
Long run and in and out of the glove over there of Antuna. Lucille Antuna in there at shortstop, can't hang on to it.
You know what they used to do with Joe Niekro, who threw the knuckleball when he pitched for Houston? That's a tough shot. Long way to run. Clank. You're forgiven. Tough day for pop-ups. They used to turn the air conditioning fan on behind home plate and blow. You can feel the air conditioning over your left shoulder. I'm a left-hand hitter. Blowing out to the mound directly behind home plate just make this knuckleball flutter more.
Yeah, that's one that knuckleballers like to throw when the wind is blowing out. You feel like as a hitter, okay, I've got a chance today. And then you look and it's a guy like Niekro on the mound, and you know that that thing is going to be dancing, just like Wakefield for all those years when I was playing. You knew if the wind was blowing out, it actually didn't help your chances.
It would be, it was a clammy cold. You had a clammy sweat in the dome because it was all air conditioned. But it was colder. I never liked wearing long sleeve shirts. But when Niekro pitched, I had to wear a long sleeve shirt because it was cold because they had the air on, blowing the darn fan.
That's funny. Home field advantage. Montreal in the dome, late in my career, there used to be a discernible difference between when you were hitting and when you were in the field to feel the fans. The fans would be blowing, the air conditioning would be blowing out while the Expos were hitting, and you could feel it in the field, and then they'd turn the fans off or have it come in from the outfield. They could switch the fans.
Is that why I had such a hard time
Maybe
at the
that's
State
why,
Olympique?
You have cracked the code, Todd.
Found your reasoning.
Let alone Steve Rogers, Charlie Lee, Bill Gullickson, Woody Fryman, Elias Sosa. They had it's Dan Bonson. I mean, they had such a pitching staff.
And then my era, they still had Langston and Pedro Martinez, and
they originally had Randy Johnson.
Dennis Martinez.
He came up in September, and they traded him to Seattle in the winter. I was glad to see him go.
Ryan Cordell takes a third strike. And so we head to the 8th inning. Mets down 4-zip. At 6 p.m., get the inside scoop as the best baseball insiders in New York break down all the latest Mets and Yankees spring training news on Baseball Night in New York, presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers, weeknights at 6, only on SNY. So the activity on the berm continues. Daniel Zamora.
Well, he's hoping to land a spot in the bullpen.
Zamora, the 7th Mets pitcher of the afternoon.
Zamora's had a good spring, and I think it's interesting what we were talking about in the break is that with the new rules that you have to face 3 batters, is that going to be something that affects Zamora's ability to make this team? Because he's considered, at least at this point in his career, as more of a left-handed specialist. So it's important for him to be able to use that changeup and get right-handers out.
Jacob Wilson lines one into left field, and that one's going to get past Jarrett Parker out there. Wilson, not exactly fleet of foot, is around second, going to try for third, and he will be in there standing and finally slides in to be safe. So Parker came in on it, made the head first dive, it got past him, and that's a triple for Wilson.
Wilson smiling there because, as you said, he had a stand-up triple that he just decided to rest and slide and just rest for a second. I can relate.
Scoring triple.
That was over-aggressive, obviously, by Parker in left field. That was a ball that should have been fielded on a hop, and it was an obvious single that he just tried to make a fantastic play and just didn't have a chance and turned it into a triple.
Drew Ward is the batter here for the Nationals in the top of the 8th inning. Nationals 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors. The Mets no runs, 5 hits, and 1 error. The wind does continue to whip here at Clover Park.
That wind's going nowhere fast, Gary. It's here the rest of the day. It's howling from the north.
Really Bit of a stunning change of weather. It was almost 92, 93 degrees on Wednesday. And that one is lifted. It's going to drift into the seats. And then today, almost 30 degrees cooler.
Yep. It was 2 days of 90 degrees, and then it just disappeared. It's really the hot. I've been down here since October. That was the hottest day of my 6 months down here.
Look at that. Now, this is spring training. That looks like it is World Series.
Oh, no, don't do that. It's a family programming here. Let's go.
Well, that's what he does well. He got ahead of him. Fastball, comes back with that sidearm slider for a lefty on lefty. Tough to hang in there, and got him looking. This freezes him. He thought that was going to be inside. Brings it from the inside out over the inside part of the plate, which is dangerous, except for lefties against lefties. They can do that.
Jackson Reitz next for the Nationals. Amazing what the Nationals did a year ago, beginning the year 19-31. On the ground, that's through the left side into left field. Wilson's going to score to make it 5-0 Nationals. But it's such a long season. Davey Martinez was on the hot seat when they got off to the bad start, but really things changed. They got Turner back healthy. We know about the season that Rendon had. Steven Strasburg came of age a year ago. And I think it's interesting when you look at a guy like Strasburg, such great promise, finally lived up to it. And Noah Syndergaard's going to pitch for the Mets tomorrow, and you wonder if Noah is going to be on that same path. There's sort of the feeling it's time for Noah to take that next big jump.
I think Noah just has amazing ability, and I think sometimes, as confident as he seems, he loses some sense of confidence during the season and overthinks what he's trying to do out there. And I think as soon as that just sort of clicks and he stays confident with his mechanics and doesn't try to overthink things out there, I think he could start to dominate.
Pretty good pitching matchup here tomorrow with Noah Syndergaard going for the Mets, and Justin Verlander will start for the Astros. Yasel Antuna is the batter for Washington. Zamora, 72% of his pitches sliders season ago. And that's a good pitch right there. And Antuna goes down looking. So 2 strikeouts here in the 8th inning for Daniel Zamora.
There's a backdoor slider that he uses effectively. He uses it on both sides of the plate to the right-handers. He likes to use that backdoor pitch, and he liked it. Definitely, yeah. Punch him out right there.
The left-handed batter, Nick Banks, with 2 outs here in the top of the 8th inning. Rolls it over, and that's outside of first. Watch SNY Mets games on the go on any device. Just visit SNY.TV or download the NBC Sports app today for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Zamora ahead of Banks. 1-2. Rafael Bautista waits on deck. He would be next. Lifted down the left field line. Long run over there for Parker, and nobody's going to get there. So we're about midway through the Grapefruit League games. When does it start to kick in that you're ready for the season?
I always wanted to get ready, preferably you can't project, but I'd want to find it the last week, 7 days, 6 days. Didn't want to waste any hits down here. Get hot too quick. I mean, when you become a veteran, if you swing in the bat good in the middle of spring training, you can always tell your manager. I was tell Davies, you sit me down. Let me just take BP. You know, I don't want to waste him here. Don't count.
Banks goes down swinging. The Nationals tack on a run. It's 5. Kenny Atkinson, what have you done for me lately? The Rangers and the Devils, college basketball beginning to head towards tournament time. All coming up tonight at 11 o'clock here on SNY. Kevin Quackenbush, the new pitcher for the Nationals, here in the bottom half of the 8th inning.
Former Padre. Has a name that's similar to Groucho Marx character. I'm sure he's heard that before.
Probably heard a lot of things.
Dr. Quackenbush.
Yeah.
Jake Hager swings and misses at the fastball. And Hager goes around. First out here in the bottom of the 8th. Quackenbush, big guy, 6'4", 235 pounds.
Did he go? As a hitter, I'd be complaining, but
It's cold, and it's a spring game, and it's late, and umpires are going to be, that right arm is going to get a little work.
oh yeah.
So Groucho Marx's character in Day at the Races was Dr. Hackenbush, not Quackenbush. And he told the horse, take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
So that's Hackenbush. Keith, are you back with us here? Yeah. Hackenbush, not Quackenbush.
Yes. I'm guessing Mr. Quackenbush out there has no idea who Groucho Marx is, let alone who Hackenbush is. So, different generation.
The 1937 film. Actually, it's quite hilarious, that film.
That was just when you were coming up?
Oh, yes, that's right. Todd, I don't know you that well.
Ouch. Swing and a miss, and Braxton Lee goes down on strikes. So back-to-back strikeouts for Kevin Quackenbush, not Hackenbush.
And with the shadows, and he short arms the ball. I'm wondering if he was at one point not a pitcher, because he throws like he could have been a catcher at some point. He's got a short arm, 4-seam, and it kind of jumps on the hitter right there. And as you've seen, 2 strikeouts. Sneaks it by you.
By the way, you mentioned the shadows again. Keith was talking about it from a hitting standpoint. What about from a catching standpoint? Was that an issue?
Yeah, good question. It actually was. I think at least you know what's coming, so you know how to try to react. But it is a little bit more difficult, especially on the off-speed stuff. A guy with a good late breaking slider or big curveball, you'd see it, and then it would sort of disappear quickly, and then you'd pick it up again. But it was a little bit more challenging for sure.
David Thompson is the batter for the Mets, and to follow along with our duck theme, there we go.
Oh, it's the bottom of the 8th.
And so 3 consecutive strikeouts for Mr. Quackenbush. We go to the 9th, 5-0. Chasen Shreve is the 8th pitcher of the afternoon for the Mets as we go to the 9th inning here on this Saturday afternoon at Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. Shreve facing the 9, 1, and 2 batters in the Washington lineup. Rafael Bautista come on to play center field, leads it off here for the Nats. Roller out in front. Shreve quickly off the mound. He fires, and they get the out over at first. Nice play by Chasen Shreve, and then over at first base, Joey Terdoslavich did a nice job to make the play.
Fielded with a quick turn and throw, exactly like you're taught. Throws a strike. Interesting way to got his feet twisted around a little bit. I think he thought it was going to bounce, and it stayed off the ground, so he just got out of the way of the runner.
That one's well hit out to right field. Long run out there for Braxton Lee. Reaches up at the warning track, and he pulls it in.
He made that look easy. Wow, nice play.
You're right about that. He made that look easy. That was not easy at all. He got a great jump and tracked it all the way. That ball was hammered.
Well done.
And the wind was taking that as he was drifting to his left and then trying to drift back to his right. The wind was pulling it back to the right.
That was impressive. That was not easy. He made that look very, very easy.
Taylor Gushue with 2 outs here in the top of the 9th inning. He struck out in his only at bat of the afternoon in the 7th. And a good 9th inning here for Chasen Shreve. And so the Mets trail at 5-0, the last chance as we head bottom 9. We're heading for the bottom of the 9th inning here, Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. We had a sellout crowd here today. Many have left the ballpark. It's Dakota Backus coming on to pitch for the Nationals here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Austin Voth got the start for the Nats, went 3 innings, 3 hits, no runs. And now Backus will try to close it out for Washington here in the bottom of the 9th. Joey Terdoslavich, who came on to play first base in place of Dominic Smith. Terdoslavich gets a piece. Mark Vientos waiting on deck, and he's a pretty well thought about prospect inside the Mets organization. Mets farm system, which was down for a while, beginning to creep back up. As Trdoslavich cannot hold up, he goes down for out number 1.
Well, I remember my first big league camp, and you get to the point of the game where people are leaving and it feels like there's nothing on the line. But when you're a prospect and you're getting an opportunity at a big league game, it's still an exciting time for you right now. So I'm sure he's the happiest guy in this ballpark right now. He's walking up to home plate.
The Mets with just 5 hits on the day, 2 of them off the bat of Brandon Nimmo. He had a pair of doubles in the first, one in the first and then one in the third. Michael Conforto, a first inning single. Eduardo Nunez singled in the 4th inning. And then Michael Conforto a single in the 6th inning, and that's been it for the Mets here in Port St. Lucie today as Washington pitching has shut them down. Vientos held up on the swing, and the count goes full. And Vientos works out a walk, and so the Mets have a base runner here in the bottom of the 9th.
Well, they got the shift on. Mazeika obviously has been scouted in the minor leagues. I made a poor choice of my sock selection this morning. I didn't wear my Patagonias. My feet are frozen.
I wasn't sure quite where you were going with that, Keith.
I'm going to get in that car, warm it up. I'm going to turn the heater on my feet. I'll tell you that.
Can't you turn the car on from up here?
No, I haven't got the Tesla here. I've got the old 2006.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they don't have any of those perks on that one.
If you had the Tesla, you can start it right from up here, right?
Yeah, I could.
Get it going, get the heat going. On the ground to the right side, there's 1, and there's 2, and so that is going to do it from here in Port St. Lucie as the Mets are shut out by the Nationals. Washington getting the win by a final of 5-0.
Well, I think the big takeaway in today's game is that the competition still stays on each for the back 2 starters in the rotation, and Steven Matz just really, Todd, that's the best I've seen him look. 3 perfect innings.
I thought he looked great out there, and I thought he looked confident, and it was great talking to him afterwards to hear his approach, which is be more aggressive, use that curveball more effectively. We saw both of those things. And then I think the other takeaway today is Betances, even though he was not sharp, was on the mound for the Mets today in a big league game. And he's a guy that they're going to need coming out of that bullpen later on this summer for sure. So it was good to see him on the mound.
Baby steps for Dellin Betances. Game summary is brought to you by Ford. So Steven Matz, 3 really impressive innings. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Lexus. Experience amazing by McDonald's. Wake up breakfast with McDonald's. Try the new Bacon Deluxe Egg McMuffin by our local Ford stores and by WB Mason. Who bought? WB Mason business supplies delivered easier. Final score here at Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. The Washington Nationals shut out the New York Mets 5-0. We're back on picks tomorrow afternoon. The Mets hosting Justin Verlander and the Houston Astros. Our next SNY game coming up on March the 16th as the Mets once again take on Houston. Our coverage getting underway at 6 o'clock. And so for Keith Hernandez, Todd Zeal, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Apple. We thank you for joining us from Port St. Lucie, and we say so long.